Welcome back to my Mega Man 8 Let's Play Perfect Run series. And now that I'm done clowning around, it's time for the next Robot Master stage. Which has an amazing aerial view and easily my favourite music of the entire game. And we start off needing to either avoid or take out a whole flock of Tengu. Believe me, these are very annoying enemies. And then we get attacked by a swarm of nets. Jeez, you think there's enough of them? Try to hide under the platform and wait for the airship to disappear from view, then shoot as much as you can and make a beeline for safety. Beyond that ambush, sometimes you'll need to make a bit of a leap of faith onto these floating platforms that only appear at the last minute, but the gaps between them are never that huge, so don't worry unduly. And this is the first of two floating bubble sections. Essentially, you need to guide Mega Man through the spiky obstacle maze. I say maze. For this first one, just head all the way to the right initially, and then head all the way to the left. Simple as. Some more Tengu to get by, and personally, much of the time, I prefer to try to walk or slide under them when they're at the top of their arcing pattern. And that goes for all Tengu during this level, when Mega Man's on solid ground. There was also another giant swarm of airships dropping mets, and since that time there was nowhere really to hide, I'd strongly recommend just legging it. As you will have no doubt noticed, that brings us to the auto-scrolling rush jet portion of the level. And essentially, swarms of enemies try to attack you, and you want to try to destroy as many as you can. When you can't, use rush to rapidly ascend or descend to get out of the way. During the ride, party balls appear, and if you open them, you'll get a power-up. There are 4 available, and you can acquire more than one at a time. The one you're seeing here is for Rush. Every couple of seconds he'll fire out 3 bullets, and they can help take out additional enemies. The others are Beat. He flies alongside Mega Man and helps destroy projectiles that the enemies fling your way. Auto, who hovers beside you and fires missiles at enemies. And Eddie, who also floats alongside you and drops bombs on enemies. And lucky you, I'm so skilled that I managed to time the collecting of the party ball upgrades to perfectly show off all 4 during this run. So yep, the end of the first rush jet section is the midpoint of the level, and the second half begins with another rush jet section. This time the surroundings are a bit more interesting. As you can see, we're approaching a vessel that we'll need to navigate through in order to progress. And it's at this point that the auto-scrolling slows down, making it a little trickier to simply avoid enemies. So the best thing to probably do now is to try to destroy as many as you can. Unless of course you're absolutely sure you're out of range of any attacks. With the terrain being different, there are some extra enemies thrown into the mix this time. Mets, cannons, and those pesky birds that we've seen before that, although they don't hurt you, can obscure your vision by producing smoke screens. And then there's this area, which is just filled with enemies. And if you want to avoid taking damage, you pretty much need to know where they're going to attack from and in what order things are going to pop out. You've got birds, tele-generators, cannon generators, the works. I'd say try to keep a cool head, but ultimately that's rather difficult when you've got stuff flying at you from every which way direction. And last but by no means least, another mid-boss, Shiriko Dagama, or laser eyeball to you and me. And I get my arse handed to me by its bloody spark shot attack, where it fires 3 sparks towards me. I'm busy worrying about the giant laser it fires for me every couple of seconds, so I'm hiding below where I know the laser's not going to reach, but I keep getting trapped in the bottom left corner. And ugh, that may be the worst I've ever done against this mid-boss. I am not impressed. At least once you defeat it, you get a nice peaceful ride to the next platform, where the second spike maze awaits. Now this one requires a bit more continual manoeuvring, and it may take you a couple of tries to appreciate where you need to be to avoid floating into the moving spikes, but overall it's still not too bad. Last screen, and it's very much like the very first screen of the level. multitude of Tengu swarms, sections where you need to rely on floaty platforms, and of course the constant wind playing havoc with your controls. Yeah, hopefully by now you've got a bit of a flavour for just how many enemies there are throughout this stage, and how goddamn annoying they can be at times. And there's more. But finally, that brings us to Tengu Man.
Are you worthy of my challenge?
Fortunately though, for the most part, he's another pretty easy robot master, at least in Mega Man 8. He also appears in Mega Man Base, and he's a lot harder there. Granted, he does spend much of the time hovering around in the air, making it a little bit more difficult for you to hit him, but he still comes down low enough that you can reach him. He has 3 attacks, all of which are fairly well telegraphed if you listen out to what Tengu is saying. Here you go! Means he'll swoop across the ground. Simply jump over him, and then drop vertically to the ground. Simply slide out of the way. Tornado hold! Means he'll fire a fan along the ground, emitting a tornado. And although I do manage to avoid it by jumping through it before the tornado hits the ground, I'd advise not to do that. Just walk or slide in the opposite direction, provided you ordinarily hang around in the middle of the platform, as you'll never run out of room and fall off either side. Lastly, Kamateachi means he'll aim a wind ball, is that what it is? At you. And again, you should be able to jump over this quite easily. Provided you don't panic and listen out for what attack is coming, this fight is not too tricky.
Regretful.
I get easily one of the better weapons in the game. It can be used to destroy enemies really quickly, and also to give Mega Man an extra jump boost if you need it. Well, pain in the arse level, that's for sure. But with enough practice and replaying, I did manage to get through it unscathed. Again, likely saying this for every stage, but just to reiterate, owing to the length of Mega Man 8 stages and that I can essentially talk about everything I want to during the Let's Play portions, I'll only really be chiming in to discuss areas where perfect run attempts ended, and hence there will be many more longer sections where I'm not talking. Well, there was one outtake on that very first screen. Once I got a handle on how to avoid that first Tengu swarm, there were no further troubles. Couple of mess ups on this screen. Bloody Tengu again. As you saw there though, upon realising you can just walk along the platform and automatically dodge them, it was plain sailing from then on. And okay, so many outtakes on this screen, I don't know where to begin. It took a while to come up with a routine that worked well for me in terms of knowing which enemies to attack and which to simply avoid. And also, since you just saw, in case you're wondering, no, I can't collect the power-ups to help me. I believe that would go against Perfect Run rules, so I've also got to worry about dodging party balls or the power-up icons if I shoot the party balls. Admittedly not so bad for the first Rush Jet section, but oh, just you wait. So, quite a few failures on the second rush jet section as well. More or less all of them in the corridor portion, thanks to me not knowing what order would be best to take out the various enemy spawners. One, however, was due to opening a party ball and not avoiding the power-up. Possibly my personal most annoying level outtake of the lot, not counting Roadmaster ones. And a couple of screw-ups to the giant eye thing. I must admit though, I can't complain about its attacks for this run. Every time it was the laser and not the spark shocks. That attack is easily more dodgeable. So, yep, you've guessed it. More outtakes on the final screen, thanks to the bloody Tengu again. I'll stress once more, when you know how to avoid them, they're okay-ish, but when you don't, you're almost always going to come a cropper. Especially to these swarms right at the end of the level. They feel wholly unnecessary and are downright evilly placed.
I'll take on you. Be ready.
While I do genuinely believe that Tengu is an easy run at Master to Perfect run, that unfortunately didn't stop me from suffering two disasters when trying to beat him. Both times I panicked and slid into him when he dived at me. Here you go! He's the easiest of the telegraph moves as well, because he says it way before he dives at you. So I don't know why I was panicking in the first place. Granted I was a little nervous, I'm so close to a perfect one after all, but that's no excuse for screwing up in this way twice. Thankfully, third time really was the charm though. So with that, enjoy the little remaining of the fight.
Here you go. Tornado hold. Here you go. Regretful.
Not that I was expecting them to, but things were certainly not getting any easier. I'd pretty much already reached the point in the game where the anger was starting to boil over. Tengu stage took me 1 hour and 20 minutes to achieve perfection on, with me suffering a total of 17 outtakes along the way, 2 of them on the Robot Master. Once you know how to get by the first bird swarm and the army of Mets dropping from the airship, the first trouble spot of the level isn't really until the rush jet section. And it's not like at any one time the screen is swarming with enemies, but for this bit you could certainly do with knowing which enemies are coming and from where. You hopefully would have seen during the perfect run that there were times when I was shooting hell for leather at things, and times where I focused more on avoidance. That was certainly deliberate and only achievable through increased familiarity of the section. Another point worth reiterating is that sometimes you also need to avoid party balls, or the power-ups contained within them. Collecting them violates the minimalistic aspect of the run, and this can be a little awkward. Since you don't absolutely need the assistance of auto, eddy, beat or rush, much like char shots, I mustn't collect those power-ups. And believe me, one of my most frustrating, quote-unquote, outtakes ever was collecting a power-up icon on the second half of the rush jet section. Had to start all over again. The eye laser mid-boss is okay once you figure out what order to take out the enemy's spawning compartments, but a tad irritating when you don't know, or forget, you need to do this. Lastly, past the rush jet section, those bloody bird swarms at the end of the level are evil. Such an unnecessary irritants right before the damn boss gate. Ugh, I hate them. As for Tengu, he's not too bad, but I was clearly feeling rather clumsy this day and completely forgot his tails to signify which attack he was going to do. Once you know which of the three moves he's going to do, Tornado Hold, which you slide away from, Yaratagashi, which you jump over, and his Dive Bomb, which you also jump over, dodging should be straightforward. One word of caution though, don't get too greedy in trying to jump up and attack him. Make sure he's not about to swoop into you as you jump. You'll certainly regret that. Perennially screwing up on the rush jet section and those two oh so annoying outtakes on Tengu Man were comfortably enough to put me in a foul mood. I know things shouldn't feel any different to any of the other stages or games, but for some reason they just do on Mega Man 8. Some of that has got to be down to the stage length, but in Tengu's case, even the music, which I ordinarily love, felt like it was mocking me this time around. So I rate Tengu's stage as a 6 out of 10. There's so many little things that can go wrong when trying to avoid taking damage, rather than there being one or two massive threats, meaning that I guess the level isn't horrible, but it's certainly not one you can afford to lose focus on. This would ordinarily be quite a high rating for a seemingly lowish number of outtakes, but since most of them came toward the end of the level, thus increasing the time spent, and I was getting mightily pissed off because of it, I feel I have to go higher than I typically might. 6 it is then. And only one of the first 4 Robot Masters remains. But is this the time when all my perfect run plans explode in my face? Tune in next time to find out. Cheerio.